morning, everyone. It's really exciting to see all of you, and because this is digital evangelism, we're having some digital technical difficulties, but all of that is a part of digital ministry, because what would digital evangelism be like without having the issues? So we're going to get started very soon. In the meantime, while he works on that, I would like to tell you a story. It's about a lady named Miss Amelia. Miss Amelia grew up in a very rural part of Haiti. And because her family did not have money, by the time she got to third grade, she couldn't continue her education. She never learned to read. She never learned to write. She experienced hunger to the point of her and her daughter eating toothpaste, or sometimes not having enough food that they would put salt under their tongues just to help with hunger pangs. Her husband left, went to the Bahamas when the child was a few months old, and 7 years passed before he was able to save up enough money to get Miss Amelia and her daughter from Haiti to the Bahamas. After a lot of years coming into the Adventist church, she decided that she had to give back. She had come to know Christ, her life was much better, and she had seen God done so much for her. And she said, how can I leave people back in Haiti who don't know the gospel and my family members and not share this wonderful news that I have, this wonderful story that I have? And so she decided she was going to have this, she had this grand idea that she was going to go back to Haiti and start a school in a rural part of the country. And she would feed these kids, and she would give them clothes, and then she would teach them about the gospel, and she would plant churches. This is a woman who couldn't read and who can't write her name. That was 2009 that she had the idea. In 2010, the earthquake struck. And a lot of people said, oh, she's not going anymore because now the country basically is in shambles. And there's even more troubles and challenges. And she said, now is an even more opportune time to go. Now it's even more desperate. She continued to plan. She gave away her house, she sold her stuff, she sent her kids out to live with others, and she was planning on moving back. And then 3 months later, there was the cholera outbreak. And people said to her again, there's no way that you're moving back. And she said, how could I not? 9 years later, she and her husband planted 3 churches. They run a school with 85 children currently enrolled. Every year there are baptisms. This woman who can't read and who can't write used the power of the story of the gospel. It transformed her life, and she was compelled to share that gospel with others. Now, if a woman who is a housekeeper, her husband is a handyman, they don't have any form of formal education, could do that much and share the gospel and change an entire village, how much more do we have our responsibility to use the tools that we have, to use the education that we have to change the world? I know the story well because Miss Amelia, and that's the name that the children for the family she used to housekeep for, they couldn't pronounce her French name, Emilia, so they called her Amelia. That woman is my mom. And I was one of those who said, Mom, there's no way that you're going back. I was in Europe at the time of the earthquake, and I called her. I said, you can't go. We even devised a plan to take her passport so she wouldn't go. And it was only when I saw the photos from the mission trip that my heart was broken and I was humbled, and I said, how could I not use what God has given me to spread the gospel? And today we have some of the most powerful tools in our hands, our laptops, our cell phones, and the internet. And you know, most of us are so comfortable, we're not willing to step outside of our comfort zones. And so in today's presentation, that will shortly come up, we are going to learn about digital evangelism. Not so much the technical parts, I'm going to try to save that for the second part this afternoon, but there's 3 important pillars that we're going to learn about, and it's coming up shortly.
Amen.
Please bear with me and please pray. We all need prayers. If I continue talking, I'm going to spoil the whole presentation, so I need to just stop for a second. All right, while they're working on that, let's say a prayer. Father in heaven, what an amazing opportunity it is to be able to come before your throne room this morning and to sit as your students and to let you teach us. We are excited. Our minds, Lord, are open, and we're just asking that you would send your Holy Spirit right now to open our understanding, to bless us with a spirit of wisdom, to change our hearts and our lives so that as we go out into the world, that our lives would be an aroma of life leading unto life. We pray that you would be with all of the technical stuff that's taking place, that the presentation would continue, and that you would bless our ministries, our churches, and prepare our hearts to meet you at your second coming. In your precious name we pray and ask all these favors. Amen. All right, awesome. Praise the Lord. And thank you for your patience, everyone. So by the end of the presentation, you should be able to explain the link between storytelling and digital evangelism. You're going to name the important pillars and then also be able to list at least 2 practical ways that you can apply these pillars in your life or in digital evangelism. So these 3 important things are storytelling, building community, and sharing the gospel. The last part may seem as if it's an obvious thing, you know, we're Christians, but I'm going to give you a different twist on it. But storytelling is what I'm going to spend a majority of the presentation on. I want us to be able to lay a foundation, a groundwork for digital evangelism, and that will make the other parts easier. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to veer off a little bit and talk about texting and driving. And you may wonder what it has to do with digital evangelism, but stick with me. So here are some statistics. I'm not going to read all of them, just a few. The National Safety Council reports that cell phone use while driving leads to 1.6 million crashes every year. 390,000 injuries occur every year because people are texting and driving. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands of those of you who do it. Texting while driving is 6 times more likely to cause an accident than drunk driving. Texting while driving causes a 400% increase in time spent with eyes off the road. So now what I would like for you to do is to write down the 3 most important facts from the previous slide. I'll give you 30 seconds. The 3 most important facts from the previous slide. Or if you can remember them, that's good too. Or you can just tell me, who will be my first victim? Yes.
Texting while driving is texting while driving is 6 times more dangerous than drunk driving.
Awesome, very good student, very good. My next victim, someone else. Important facts, Alex.
I was writing down storytelling.
He was writing down storytelling, not paying attention. Anyone else? Yes.
1.6 million people, 1.6 million accidents happening due to texting.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move to another part. Let's hope it plays.
So I just confess that I text and drive. If I get a text, I look at my phone.
It's definitely texting.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Snapchat. I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Is that like making Snapchats or watching them?
Making them.
Texting is like my main form of communication.
Boredom, honestly.
And B, I guess no, it's really just A.
I've only never done it at stoplights. I've always been really good about it.
The passenger has a pretty important role driving now, where they're like, oh, red light, red light.
If someone that you like texts you, you can't just let it sit there without just knowing what they said.
Because what if something exciting's happening or something happened?
Like every time I do it, I think about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
So I'd want to introduce you to a friend of ours.
My name is JC.
Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Dash.
Justin, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I just really quickly want to have a chat, tell you what happened to me. When I was 21 years old, driving home from my college graduation ceremony, driver on his phone. He was so distracted. He turned left into the intersection at a red light. Another car, an 18-wheeler, swerved to miss him and hit my family's car. And the resulting collision actually killed both of my parents. I spent 2 months in the hospital fighting for my own life, and then 2 more months in a rehab hospital, learning how to walk again, learning how to speak again, learning how to dress myself and how to feed myself. I live with a partially paralyzed body. I didn't have my daddy to walk me down the aisle when I got married.
Having sort of like met JC, because you look at JC and sort of give those same reasons.
Usually I use my phone to change a song on. I try to use it as little as possible, but
I'm not gonna look at my phone ever again.
Honestly, if I have been sitting at a red light, I'll like glance down to see if my mom's texting me, but the people's lives that are impacted from something that is so stupid.
I can assure you on my drive home right now, I'm not going to use my phone and drive, and I'm not going to do it when I go to work tomorrow and the next day after that until, it becomes a habit, and that just doesn't happen at all.
I know this is hard, I'm sorry, it's hard for me too, but this is real. You have the power to really actually make a difference and do something about it.
So, and if I were to ask you now, what was the most important part of that video, what would you tell me?
Don't text while you drive.
Don't text while you drive. What happened? What was the difference? Somebody pray that Dustin gets back soon with the charger. What was the difference between when I showed you the first slide with all of the statistics and numbers, and some of you couldn't remember, even Alex just now, who was writing down, still knew the most important part of that video, coming to you. But then when I showed you the story, the young people suddenly went to being all jovial. They knew the statistics. But then when they met someone who had a story to share, everything changed. What was that? Why did that happen? Why did the video have a greater impact on you? Why did the story, meeting someone, have a greater impact on those young people than the facts? What emotions came out when you were watching the video compared to the facts? And why is this? Why were those feelings evoked through watching the video compared to the facts? It has to do with the power of storytelling. Now, for those of you who were here last night when I gave the presentation, I told you that 20 years ago, a story began to air on televisions across the nation that would single-handedly be responsible for changing the perceptions of millions of Americans on a very touchy subject. A study was done, and it's something that they call the will and grace effect. And what they found was that before this TV show began to air, American society generally was very uncomfortable toward the idea of homosexuality, LGBTQ, all this stuff. 20 years later, the society is much more open, much more accepting. And here's what some of the researchers said. Art in its best form allows you to experience life and ultimately changes the way you view the world. And I'm going to relate all of this to digital evangelism. Will and Grace was one of the rare television shows to do just that. It was entertaining, but it did more than just amuse its viewers. The show undoubtedly opened doors and desensitized America to homosexuality. So whatever kind of stories you consume on a daily basis, whether it's through TV shows, movies, books, magazines, whether you watch 3ABN all day, or whether you watch some other channel and so forth, thank you. Those stories that you are consuming are changing you. Joe Biden, former vice president of the United States, said, "Will and Grace did more to educate the American public than almost anything anybody has ever done so far." For years, LGBTQ activists were, working on making it more acceptable and so forth, and then a television show airs, and 20 years later, it's something that's generally okay. Jonathan Gottschalk wrote a book called The Storytelling Human, The Storytelling Animal, and he listed 9 stories that changed the world. Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Klansman, Rienzi, the last of the Roman tribunes, and then number 8, the Holy Bible, and of course we're not going to classify the Holy Bible as a regular story, but we'll just go with it, and number 9, Will and Grace. These stories changed the world, and we're going to find out how. For example, let's look at number 1, Uncle Tom's Cabin was the best-selling novel of the 19th century, and the second best-selling book of that century following the Holy Bible. It is credited with helping fuel the abolitionist cause in the 1850s. In 1855, 3 years after it was published, it was called the most popular novel of our day. And a famous story that goes around is that at the start of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln met the author of this novel, a fictional tale, and said to her, "So this is the little lady who started this great war." The novel basically showcased slavery in such a way that it propelled people to work towards abolishing slavery. Stories, Jonathan Gottschalk again says, stories we consume shape us profoundly. They change beliefs, behaviors, and attitudes because whatever is happening to the character is also happening to us. So a lot of American society, we think, well, you think, I'm not American, but we think that a lot of these ideas we have, it's because we independently thought about these things. And this is what I truly believe, when in fact, we're being changed by the stories we consume. Each of you sitting here, by God's grace, you are here, your beliefs have changed, your attitudes, your actions have changed because you heard the gospel. And that's why you're here. Why do we feel afraid? Even when you're watching a movie that you know is fake. If it's a horror movie, you're still scared. If you're watching, I don't know, Mission Impossible or something, you know that it's fake, but your hands are still sweaty. Why is that? Why is storytelling so powerful? It's because researchers have found that your brain actually cannot tell the difference between a story and real life. So whatever's happening to the character is also happening to you. Another research that showed the power of storytelling. Persons who smoke, they have on the box that it causes cancer, but they still smoke. But they have a greater chance of wanting to stop if they meet someone who's either survived lung cancer or had mouth surgery or something, if they come face to face with the story. When we hear or read a story, the same part of the brain that would physically do something is activated. So if I start telling you a story of a boy who there are 3 bullies who are behind him and they are on their bikes and they're running after him and he is a cripple. This is the story that Jonathan Rothschild told, and he's trying to run but he's falling over. While you're hearing the story and I talk about the wind that's blowing in his face and the gravel that's under his feet, the part of your brain that would actually run is activated when you hear the story. The other part of storytelling that's powerful is that people remember information embedded in the story rather than cold facts. How many of you can tell me, again, some of the facts from the previous slide when I just stated the statistics? But I'm sure that you can tell me about the story of JC. Now, what does this have to do with digital evangelism? We're going to come back to that, but we're going to look at a few statistics. Every month in the United States, 422 people Google the question, why did God make me ugly? 103 people ask, why did God make me black? 25,000 people ask, who created God? why does God allow suffering? And 30,000 people Google online church. Digital evangelism basically is the methodical use of using online platforms to help individuals who are online learn more about Jesus Christ. Because today, anytime we hear something new, anytime we want to do something, we go on Google or we say, hey Siri, you want to find a restaurant? Like last night after we finished our booth and I was hungry, I went on Google, I'm like, restaurants near me. Uber Eats, and food was at my door. We Google everything. And people are searching for the gospel and searching for Jesus Christ. But what are they finding? Websites, blogs, social media sites, podcasts, chat rooms, discussion boards, all of these and other platforms are used to share the gospel. Digital evangelism is also important for the Seventh-day Adventist Church because it helps boost our presence online. I don't know, how many of you have ever Googled Seventh-day Adventist before? Well. Let me just see a show of hands. All right, hands down. How many of you are proud of what you see online about Seventh-day Adventists? Folks, so if you aren't proud about what you see about Seventh-day Adventists, now imagine your friend Johnny finds out you're a Seventh-day Adventist and Johnny wants to find out more. He says, I'll Google you guys. You'll be like, wait, don't Google us just yet. How about you just... Do you know why we have that reaction and we don't want people to Google Seventh-day Adventists? Or if you're a canvasser and you hand the book, The Great Controversy, and that person's like, hey Siri, who's Ellen G. White? It's because of some of that negative content, a lot of the negative content that's online. Because there are people who are either ex-members of the church or who have a misunderstanding of our beliefs. They are using digital platforms more effectively than you and I. Members of other denominations, they're using these platforms because they so sincerely believe that people should stay away from our church. And do you know what we do? We're very comfortable with coming to our conferences and our board meetings, and we leave the online world, and everyone with their own story is telling it. And we're not using digital evangelism. Another point about this. The Mormon Church spends millions of dollars every single year on digital evangelism and SEO. About 10 years ago or 15 years ago, they did not allow their missionaries to use social media on their 2-year mission trips. But then they realized, the internet is very powerful. People aren't opening their doors to missionaries anymore. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to train our missionaries to be online missionaries. So right now, and I did it, you can go to mormon.org and they will have online missionaries who are there to answer your questions. You know what else they did? They started to give their online missionaries access to social media and access to the internet and ask them to share online. The other thing that they do in their general conference sessions is that they invite every single one of their members. They said, whatever your passion is, whatever your ministry is, do an online version of it. As a result, does anybody know the piano guys? The piano guys, a lot of these, sometimes these YouTubers who are putting out awesome content, they're Mormons. And they know you love their content, you're going to be more interested in who they are, and the Mormon Church has been growing exponentially over the last decade because of their use of digital evangelism. The other part of digital evangelism is that there is a discipleship aspect that focuses on making disciples of followers, and I'm going to expand on this later. So let's go back to storytelling. The success of your online ministry depends on how well you tell a story. Now, you might wonder to yourself, Felecia, is that even a biblical concept? I need to just be able to go out there, preach, list all the scriptures, and not tell a story. Well then, let's just look at the example of the greatest missionary. Jesus' ministry was centered on telling heart-transforming stories. He spoke in parables. The The holy book that we follow is one grand, amazing story. He could have given us chapters and chapters of rules and rules and rules. Thou shalt not eat veggie links for breakfast. Thou shalt not do this. But he didn't do that. No, you should eat veggie links for breakfast. That's okay. But it's an entire story, a beautiful story that depicts the love of God. And in his stories or parables, he was able to relate to his listeners. He was able to help his believers understand. He concealed the mystery from those whose hearts was hardened, and he created us as storytelling beings. I want 4 people, if possible, to find these verses very quickly. We're going to jump for 1 minute into a quick Bible study. Who has the first scripture? Mark 4:33 and 34. Who will take that for me? Going once, going twice. No. Going to Sebastian, is it? Sebastian. Matthew 13:34. Going to Alex. Psalm 78, 1-3. The gentleman in the gray shirt. Ephesians 3, 8 and 9. I'll take it. Right there. Okay. Sebastian, you have it? Not a problem.
Okay. Mark 3.
Mark 4:33, 34. And read it loud so everyone can hear. 33, 34.
And with many such parables he spoke the word to them as they were able to hear it. But without a parable he did not speak to them. And when they were alone, he explained all things to his disciples.
So the Bible says that whenever Jesus spoke to his followers, he always used parables or stories. Alex.
All these things, Matthew 34, all these things Jesus spoke to the multitude in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them.
Thank you. Gentleman in the gray shirt.
Psalms 78, verses 1-3. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which ye have heard and known, and our fathers have told us.
Awesome. Thank you. And Miss Knaps.
Ephesians 3, 8 and 9. Though I am the least deserving of all God's people, he graciously gave me the privilege of telling the Gentiles about the endless treasures available to them in Christ. I was chosen to explain to everyone this mysterious plan that God, the creator of all things, had kept secret from the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. So Jesus used the power of storytelling. The enemy as well has a counterfeit. So because he realizes that this is such a powerful tool, because he knows that he can change the attitudes, beliefs, perceptions of people, he uses storytelling as well. So why then aren't we using the power of storytelling more? Now we're going to jump into 3 ways that you can practically grow your ministry using storytelling. Number 1, instead of sharing cold hard facts and scripture without context, and sharing scripture is very good, share stories of how the gospel changes lives. A few weeks ago, I was sitting in an office, and a friend of mine who's Muslim, she's not practicing, she's Muslim. I just met her actually, and she was just talking about how stressed she was. And this was a Thursday evening. She's stressed and she's tired and she hasn't been sleeping and so forth. And I started telling her, oh my, I really wish you find some rest. I said, for us and our faith, we sincerely believe in rest. Like, we take one day out and we relax, we stop everything, we worship with other believers, we eat a whole lot of food, we spend time with family and friends. I kid you not, she said, can I do that with you, please? I said, yeah, sure. And she's like, can you tell me more? Like, what is it? Why do you do it? I said, yeah, it's something called Sabbath. It's on the 7th day of the week. And I did not even have to invite her to church. She invited herself. She said, I need to experience Sabbath for myself. And then I went to tell her, we do it because God is so interested in us taking a vacation with him every single week. Like, he loves us that much. And then I began to share the scriptures. But you know what we tend to do? You need to worship on the 7th day of the week because here are the scriptures, here are the scriptures, here are the scriptures. But we never share the story of how it actually changed our lives. If someone would still be willing to smoke after reading very clearly, smoking will cause cancer, they're willing to still kill themselves after seeing the facts. Why do we think that, and Paul very clearly says that the gospel to those who are not saved is foolishness if their minds are not converted. Why do we think that we can just take scriptures and throw it at them and it's going to convert them? It won't work until they actually see or hear how the story has changed your life or how it's changed the lives of others. You won't even have to invite them to church. You won't have to invite them to keep Sabbath. You won't have to tell them about returning tithes or taking care of your body. They will be running behind you. Please tell me more. It's the power of storytelling. If I see my sister here with a really nice hairstyle, we being really interested in hairstyles, and she tells me the story about her hairstylist and all that stuff, I'm going, tell me where can I meet her, how much it is. She won't have to convince me. When there's a sale, we tell the story. We see a new product, we watch a new show, we so eagerly tell the story, and others are just drawn into it. Telling stories rather than sharing cold facts. So that's one thing I need you to remember and begin to apply this to your online ministry. The other part, share your personal story. Whether you have a website, whether you have a podcast, a YouTube channel, a blog, Facebook, your personal story, people cannot fight against it. If the gospel has not changed your life in a way that you can boldly exclaim, this is what Jesus Christ did for me, how do you expect anyone else to follow it? How do you expect anyone to purchase a product if you don't believe in the product? If I have my phone, and I'm going to veer off a little bit off subject. The iPhone is something that they use. They're not just selling you a product, they're selling you a way of life. They have found that iPhone users and Mac users, for example, have this sort of frame of mind that they will literally fight with you if you try to tell them that Android is better. Because Apple has done so well with selling the story that if you use these iPods without any wires, the thing that can really fall off, it makes you a step above everybody else. Even your text message is a different color. You're blue, well, I'm blue, you're green, and I'm a little bit, am I telling a lie? It's a story that they're telling you. It's a story that they're feeding you, and so your mind is consumed by it, and so you will go out and sell their products for them because they've sold you a story, and then you share your own personal story about your experience with it. Yesterday morning, was it yesterday? The days are sort of meshing into themselves. On my way to the airport coming here, my Uber driver, it was 4 o'clock. I had a 40-minute ride to the airport, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get in the car and I'm just going to sleep. He starts talking from the minute I get in the car. And he was asking where I was from, if I speak French, and I said, yeah, my parents are from Haiti. I spent a year in France. And he said, oh yeah, the part where, it's a lot of wine, you must have enjoyed it. I said, I never had wine. He literally almost stopped the car. He's like, you never had wine? Could not believe it. I was like, no, I never had wine. So he goes on in disbelief. Why? Is it a religious thing? Because, and this is, I'm going to talk about knowing your audience, because the minds of people already are incensed against religion already. If you approach the reasons why you do things or don't do things because of religion, it shuts down their mind immediately. So I said, listen, me and my friends, we have enough fun just drinking apple juice alone. We could drink apple juice all night, laugh, have good fun. We wake up in the morning without a headache, without a hangover, without any bruises, and we remember. You think we really need wine? And then I said, also, because God is so concerned about our bodies, He doesn't want us putting anything in our bodies that's going to cloud our judgment or that's going to hurt us. By the time he dropped me off to the airport, this man had asked me about Sabbath. He had asked me about the state of the dead. He had asked me about where he can find a Seventh-day Adventist church. Why? Because it starts off with sharing your personal story. On your church website, I want you to think, for those of you who, you're communication director of your church websites, how many personal testimonies are up there? Wow. Your Facebook page, think about your church's Facebook page. If you look at the events, are all of the events about the evangelistic series that's coming up, inviting people to church, inviting all this stuff, or are you actually taking the time, using your phone on a Sabbath morning and asking Sister so-and-so, for example, hey, in 1 minute, can you just share your story? Share what has God done for you? A church that I attended, we used to go live for 5 minutes every Sabbath morning before Divine Hour. We would give viewers a behind-the-scenes look of what the pastors and so forth are doing before going up on stage, and then we would call a church member and say, share your week and what God has done for you. We had people walk in after going to our Facebook page, watching these videos and say, we saw the stories and we wanted to be part of whatever your church is doing. Because of what we were doing, sharing our personal stories online. Most of us associate digital evangelism with just sharing the facts, and all of that is great. But you have to remember, you can have a really good gift, but if you're not packaging it properly, well, on the other hand, sometimes the value of something is not. You still want to make sure that you package it really nice. And so we have a gospel, and we want to make sure that your experience of it, that you're sharing it online. The other thing that you want to remember when it comes to digital evangelism and storytelling, consider the action you want your audience to take and craft stories showing characters taking that action. Near to the end, I'm going to have Dustin come up and share specifically of how his ministry, making calls to action, and what that has done in his ministry. But one thing that I realized working at the Center for Online Evangelism, going through our church websites or through Facebook pages, is that a lot of us are not actually making calls to actions to the members of our audience. What is it that you want someone to do as a result of reading your blog or watching your video or listening to your podcast? Jesus wanted to teach his followers to love each other. He had told them very clearly, love your neighbor as you love yourself, and they still were not doing that. So you know what he did? He shared a story. And remember the power of storytelling. When you hear a story, whatever's happening to the character begins to happen to you. And if you consume the story enough, it begins to change your perceptions and your behaviors. And so he tells them the story of the Good Samaritan. And he's like, this is what it means to love your neighbor. And so instead of just telling people, love your neighbors, he shared the story, and in that story, he was showing telling his listeners what they need to do. How do we, how do we share our stories online? You can use blog, you can use podcasts, there's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's online small groups. I'm going to talk more specifically about that later. And then there are articles. So that is one of the main things that I need us to remember when it comes to having an online platform and what it is that you're going to do. Each of us here has a different experience with the Lord, but one of the main things is that he has changed our hearts and he has saved us from sin, and he's continuing to work with us and prepare our hearts for his second coming. Amen. So whether your platform is going to be through video sharing or through taking photos or writing, whatever it is, remember to share your story, to share the story of others, to think about what is it that I want my audience to do, and then to craft a story around that. So the first pillar of digital evangelism is storytelling. The second pillar is community building. What do I mean by this? Working with churches and doing training, One of the main things when we hear digital evangelism and having a social media presence is that we want to build a bigger following. We want to increase our reach. We want more likes on our page. We want more people watching our live stream and so forth, all that stuff. We want more followers. But I would say to you, digital evangelism is absolutely not about building a larger following. If you just want to increase your numbers to your website or on your YouTube channel or to Facebook, follow these people. Selena Gomez, these celebrities with how many millions of followers, they know how to build a following, but they do not know how to make disciples and change the lives of people for the better. Social media ministry is not broadcast ministry, it's not broadcast media. Broadcast media is a television, information going out, it's like one way. There's not really another path to allow the audience to communicate back with you. When we get online, we're always supposed to remember that we need to create that avenue, we need to create an atmosphere to engage with our audience. Building an online, connecting your online audience with a physical community is also important, and creating an online mission station or community hub will help people to connect. And what do I mean by that? At the end of the day, have you all heard about virtual churches? Yes. Okay, so it's the thing where you can just put on the virtual mask and you attend church. You don't really have to be a part of a physical community. For me, that's a bit, you know. The faith walk, you need other people in your life. The aim or the end point of your ministry definitely is to connect people to Jesus Christ so that they can have a saving relationship with them. But you also want to encourage that person to form or to be a part of a physical community of faith. At the end of the day, no matter how digital we get, we still need human touch and contact. We still need that connection. So you want to make sure that you are building a sense of community with your online audience. Now, I'm going to show a video that's an example of, hopefully it plays. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow.
Okay, now I use that. When you have time, you can go on YouTube and watch the rest of it. David Wesley, a gentleman in Canada, just started creating these videos on YouTube with just himself. And he had this idea, I could build a community. Those persons right there formed a virtual choir. They're people from all over the world, different races, different backgrounds, different ages, all coming together and producing something beautiful. That is the idea of online community that I want us to keep in mind. It's not just about you creating the content and putting it out there. It's about you creating a sense of community with people, whether they are in Timbuktu or Jamaica or Bahamas. You have all of these people who are part of your online community, and then you're encouraging them. Hey, find your local Seventh-day Adventist church this weekend. Visit them for some sort of Bible study and so forth. And here are some examples. We have a few minutes and I want to bring Dustin up in like 5 minutes. How to build community in a digital environment. Engage with your audience, start a Facebook group. I'm going to expand on that. Launch online small groups, create an email list. We're just going to look at two of these very quickly. Facebook earlier this year changed its algorithm. Mark Zuckerberg decided that now they have almost 3 billion people on their platform. His goal is not to get more people on the platform. His goal now is to get people who are on Facebook interacting more with each other. And so now they are ranking pages and groups of organizations that have people interacting between each other. So now, even if your church has a Facebook page, you wonder, you post something and no one is interacting with it. Like, why is that? It's because now they want your church to have a Facebook group so that the people can interact with each other, and that ranks higher. You can start conversation, your page followers become participants. So let's say your church is Hillside Seventh-day Adventist Church. You can have a group for young people, single mothers, married folks, whatever. You can have all of these different groups within your page. So it's like a house with different groups, and whatever interests people have in your church or within the community around your church, they can join groups, and that helps you better to interact with people, to meet their needs, know their interests, and it gives you a better opportunity to invite them to your church. You can learn more about your audience, and it increases your reach. I'm going to skip this part here. Online small groups is something else that you can do when it comes to digital evangelism if you already have a platform. So you can download like a platform like Zoom, and what that allows you to do is you can send out a link to people, whether it's on your Facebook page, for example. You want people to come together because people have this hesitation towards just walking in a church. Maybe you can just start off by saying, hey, on Sunday evening, we have a group for marriage counseling, and you have your, I don't know, family ministries director of your church who just goes on Zoom, totally free. You send out the link, you invite people, and they just log onto their computer, and for 45 minutes, you share marriage counseling tips. Or someone in your church who does a cooking show, go live on Zoom and teach them how to make absolutely delicious tasting tofu or something. Or support group for single moms. On Friday evening, for 30 minutes, you just go on Zoom and you invite people. What you're doing is that you're showing people that the gospel is something that is practical, that it's a part of their lives, and it's not just this mundane thing, but it's something that can actually change their lives. All of these is just small groups, but it's online. And you're getting your audience used to the concept of learning from each other, coming together at a specific time, worshiping God. So the next time after 3 meetings or so, you can say, hey, you can visit our church if you're in the area, or there's a local Adventist church near your address. That helps them to be prepared to meet within community. I'm going to skip this part. Skip that. Okay, yeah, skip that part. Okay, Jesus Christ, and Destin, I'm going to have you come up. What I'm realizing, the more and more digital evangelism is becoming popular in our church, is the idea that what's important is just building relationships and community, and that is good. But what we have to remember is that when we build relationships with people, it is not the end. It is a means to an end. It's not just saying about, yeah, we want to reach out to this community because we want them to know that we love them and so forth, until we build a relationship with them, and then that's it. Like, even heathens can do that. What's the eternal purpose? At the end of the day, there has to be that specific call to action to accept the Lord Jesus. Because when Jesus comes, those people aren't going to say, well, I was friends with Felicia's online ministry, and so God just, no. It's whether that person has made that decision for Jesus Christ. So whether it's your YouTube and you are sharing your personal story, great. If you have a Facebook page and you have a group and you are connecting with people in your community, that's absolutely awesome. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you are giving people a very clear, what's the word I'm looking for? A very clear opportunity or an invitation to accept Jesus into their lives. Now, Hope Through Prophecy does this in a very beautiful way. Dustin, I'm going to have you just come up. He's the president of Hope Through Prophecy, and I'm going to let him tell you what he does, how he makes a specific call to action, and also this year you did something really exciting when you traveled, and there's baptism, and so you can just take that away and then I'll end it.
All right, good morning everyone, or is it the afternoon yet? Still morning technically. Good to see everyone today. As Felecia said, I am the president of a ministry called Hope Through Prophecy. And I do want to talk about what Felecia asked me to talk about. That is making appeals, giving calls to action to viewers. But I want to give you just a little bit background about what I do, what kind of ministry I have, so you can see the context of how I make appeals. And basically, I have been doing a YouTube ministry for less than a year. And it's called Hope Through Prophecy. And how many of you have seen that YouTube channel, Hope Through Prophecy? All right, some of you, okay, appreciate it, thank you. But I have over 61,000 subscribers, over 1.6 million views, less than a year. So God is really blessed. I can't take the credit. To God be the glory. But also, collaboration has been a big piece of that. And that might be something that Felecia talks about as the seminar continues. By the way, very, very, very practical seminar. I'm thrilled that ASI is having this seminar. I encourage you to keep coming. Felecia has a lot of great information. Keep coming back. You will learn a lot. You will become much more effective as a digital evangelist. So what Felecia said is very true, is that when you are doing this work, you have to have a goal in mind. It can't just be to get more subscribers or more views or something like that. You want to have a purpose. At Hope Through Prophecy, our purpose, our vision, is to bring viewers from broadcast to baptism. And the way we do that is engagement. We have to engage with the viewers. We have to give them a way to respond to the messages that they're seeing. And so there's a couple ways that I do that with the YouTube channel that I have. One way that I think, never really seen anybody else do this, but we have a texting service where we use a short code text. And so what we do is in the video we say, it depends what the topic of the video is. For example, I recently did a video about the Sabbath. And at the end I said, if you would like to find a church that worships on the Sabbath, just text the word hope to 50597. And so when people do that, they get a link where they can provide their information, and I can follow up with them, and I can text with them. Texting is good because more people answer their text than emails. I think they say like over 95% of people answer text, and emails is like 20% or something like that. So that is a way to give viewers a real, actual way to respond to what they're watching. Because here's the thing. As we go online, as we do digital evangelism, there are so many other people competing for the attention of viewers. All right, so we have to do something that kind of rocks people, that kind of stands out. Okay, because people have a natural tendency in today's day and age, and if you're a Bible worker, you might have run into this, is people will do Bible studies, they'll go through the study, and then at the end, they'll basically say, okay, that was nice, see you later. And they won't see the importance of making a decision. Because we live in a day and age where people are used to watching programs. Oh, that's nice what you said about the Sabbath. That's nice what you said about the state of the dead. Now what? Who cares? And so it's important to call people to a decision, to give them a call to action. And that's what Jesus did. He said, follow me. And so one of the ways that I do that using YouTube is at the end of my videos, I will say, I'll give a very specific call to action that they can do. For example, I have a video called The Fall of Lucifer, and that's basically the great controversy. It shows why evil started, why God allows it to continue. It answers a lot of those questions that people have. And the appeal at the end was simply, I choose Jesus. That was the appeal. It's very simple. If you agree, I think I said something to the effect of, if you would like to ally yourself with Jesus, if you would, I forget how I said it, but essentially if you want to choose Jesus over Satan in this battle between good and evil, just write, I choose Jesus in the comment section below. And as you look in the comment section, it's just unbelievable. All these, I think there's like thousands of comments on that video. And it's just people saying, I choose Jesus, I choose Jesus. And I used to be an unbeliever. And some people say, after this video, I choose Jesus. Some people will say that. I don't know if that's true, but you get a lot of beautiful, powerful testimonies from people, because people aren't always used to being asked to do something. Usually it's just, well, this is information, let me go to the next video. So it's important to give them a call to action. The other thing is that Felecia made a very good point, is that our goal, we should have a purpose in mind. And as we give people calls to action, we should have some sort of plan to engage with them. Again, the plan that I have is to actually bring people into the church. And social media is a wonderful avenue to do that. And it's not something that's a replacement for public evangelism, but I look at it as a supplement. Recently, I was invited to go to the Philippines, Manila, Philippines, and I just praise the Lord for that opportunity. But we were able to use Facebook to actually generate over 200 Bible studies prior to that event. Because typically a Bible worker will send out little cards where people can mail those in, and people can sign up for Bible studies. And I've done that before, I've been a Bible worker before, but what I noticed with those cards is most of the people who respond are elderly people. Now, we love elderly people. Elderly people are awesome. But is that the one audience that we want to reach out to? We want to reach out to everybody. And not everybody uses snail mail, putting stamps and everything like that. And so using the Facebook, I actually did a little simple Facebook video, and I linked it to an online form, just a Google form, where people could sign up for Bible studies. And that proved to be very effective. We had some Bible workers in Manila that followed those up, and we had 27 baptisms. And it was just a small, kind of a small budget series in Manila. And I'll be going back to Cebu City this fall to do it again, just because it was very efficient using social media to generate those leads. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to share. I don't know if you wanted to have me take questions, or if you wanted to just kind of take over again.
Actually, so right now, and so that main point is that when it comes to digital evangelism, it's not just about putting content online, that is good, but you also want to create that opportunity to build community and invite people to the gospel. So before we take questions, you can either ask me or Dustin about what he's doing. There's a free guide provided by the Center for Online Evangelism that we take this one first. Let me take that. Sorry, guys. We provided a guide in case you do want to start an online ministry. We walk you through the step-by-step process, whether it's through YouTube or podcast or blog. We have all of that, and I can make that available to you. You just need to email. Everything is digital, so I just want to just send it to you. Once you email info@centerforonlineevangelism.org. Sorry about that, guys. info@centerforonlineevangelism.org, just with the subject, attended ASI seminar, get started. I will send you the guide to how to start, practical ways to start an online ministry, whether it's for your church or whether it's for you. Or you can stop by our booth, 510, or visit our website, Center for Online Evangelism, where we have tons of resources.